International Nurses Day has been commemorated today. The day is aimed at highlighting the importance of nurses and the challenges they encounter in their line of work. Now, in the report, he delivered a keynote address at the province's commemorative event at Bojanala District. Our reporter, Refiloe Seboko, joins us with the details. Refiloe, good afternoon. Just bring us up to speed with some of the events that took place during the course of the day.
Well, we had messages of support, Hugo, from different unions within the health sector in commemoration of the International Nurses Day here in Bojanala District in the Northwest Province. MEC Madoda Sambatha just concluded, or rather ended, his keynote address in relation to this day, and I'm joined by MEC Sambatha. Thank you so much, MEC, and welcome to Newzroom Afrika. You heard the presentations that were made by different unions in relation to today, in relation to challenges that nurses are still faced with in the province. Your response to some of those points that were raised there.
Thank you very much, Newzroom. As we stand now, in an employment in the Department of Health provincially of 25,000, 9,000 it's nurses, though with vacancies not filled for. This therefore tells you the centrality of nurses and nursing fraternity in delivery of health services. So as a province, we're celebrating with unions and directly with our employees, who some of them are members of unions, and joining South Africa and the world in celebrating the International Nurses Day. As we speak, one of the central challenges that the fraternity is facing today is the fact that there's an element of gangsterism in communities that is coming closer to our facilities. As an employer and as a department, we must find ways to stop the impact of gangs to stability of workplaces on the basis of dangers they give to those workplaces. The second challenge that we have is that there's also an issue where nursing education, as previously responsibility of Department of Health, and now transferred to the Department of Higher Education. Nursing as a career does not get an allocation or funding in NSFAS. Because nursing colleges are now registered with the Department of Higher Education, as a province, we want to call for both the Minister of Health and the Minister of Higher Education to ensure that in the next intake of NSFAS, it must include nursing, because nursing is both a scarce skill and a skill that is needed in delivery of health services. So not supporting nursing through NSFAS, it has dire consequences on people joining nursing. In
your address, MEC, you also mentioned issue of security of nurses. We remember the incident in Brett's Hospital, remember the incident in Klerksdorp Sepon during the Smile Week when there was people that got into the hospital armed. You talked on how the department needs to look into intensifying security for these facilities. Originally, you would have thought that health facilities must be no gun zones. But reality as we speak is that violence and gangsterism increasing in communities has now found itself in facilities, which means we now have to prescribe that if you employ a security company to guard a facility, that security company must have guns to protect employees, not only nurses. Because the situation is seen as a no-gun-free zone originally. Security companies would have never been prescribed to have guns with guards that are there. But the reason we must attend to that is because it creates an impact where you can't be able to keep proper workforce because people feel not secured yet in the workplace. What is worse is people being killed in the workplace by their former partners or their current partners. Nobody must feel unsafe in the workplace. That's why the Department of Health is taking responsibility to correct the situation of security in the workplace. One of the issues that were raised here during the presentation of unions, MEC, is issues of rural allowance, nurses in rural areas in the province, nurses not getting what is due to them. How is the department addressing some of the challenges and concerns that continues to be raised by nurses in the province?
The difference is the description. That's why in most instances the matter ends up in a bargaining council. Because the department would say this clinic is not falling under a rural component for compensation. The unions would want each and every place according to them that is partially demarcated to be seen as a rural. So the dispute has not been refusal. The dispute is always as to how do you categorize a rural area? But we must also say it openly, that payment of rural allowances for employees does help to attract even the ones who are consumed by suburbs to accept to be deployed in rural facilities. So to us, that element is not only an issue of a benefit, but it is an issue of attracting critical skills to areas where they are needed most. So we have never had a dispute on refusal. We have had a dispute each time on a definition of a place as to whether it can be categorized as rural or not rural. And in that instance, we agree with unions that whenever there's a prescribed explanation that this is rural, we'll never dispute that.
Thank you so much for your time. MEC Madoda Sambatha is the MEC of Health in the Northwest Province. Just saying, rather making mention, Hugo, on how as the department they are going to address some of the challenges. They also talked about issues of shortage of staff in the province, one of which is caused by the outbreak of COVID-19, making mention that because of losses of nurses that passed away during that era, that has also contributed to the shortage of staff in the health sector in the province.
Refiloe Seboko coming to us from the Northwest as International Nurses Day is commemorated. Appreciate your time this afternoon.